Hi, welcome back again at my channel. This is Mr. Will with Uptuition with Mr. Will. Again, I'm attempting to do some of the questions posted on my site uptuition.id. So let's get started. Number 3, a village is 10 km on a bearing of 50 degrees from a point O. How far is the village north of O? Okay, so let's start by drawing the initial position, right? So it's starting from point O. So let's draw point O, and then we have this 3-digit bearing convention. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw the north direction first, as usual. North is pointing up, and then it is at 50 degrees. So it's always in a clockwise direction from the north, right? Clockwise from the north, and then it is at 50 degrees. So taking north as the 0 degrees reference, and then you move clockwise as much as 50 degrees, right? So let's say maybe it's somewhere around here. So this distance will be 10 km, right? 10 km. And then this is the angle 50. Let's assume this is the point for the village. Yep. And then the question now is asking how far is the village north of O. So if you see this point, the location of village with respect to the north direction of point O, right? So we can just draw a perpendicular line to the north direction, perpendicular line, right? And it is actually asking what is the how far is the village from north of O. So it's basically asking for this distance, right? So to solve this, we can actually use Pythagoras, but in this case, because we only know the distance, right? One side of the right angle triangle and one angle 50 degrees. You need to do like at least 2 steps if you want to use the Pythagoras. So anyway, you're gonna use trigonometry to solve this, right? So let me just use trigonometry. You can use you can take a look at the angle. So this is a 50 degrees angle, and then you want to find out what is the opposite side, right, of that angle. But you are given the hypotenuse of that right angle triangle. So what you want to use is basically the opposite and the hypotenuse. And then again, we remember the formula. If you want to use opposite and hypotenuse, then you can use sine, right? So it's SOH, SOH, where you have sine is just of an angle is just the opposite over the hypotenuse, right? Hypotenuse. So let me write that again. That will be sine 50 degrees, right? 50 degrees is equal to the opposite side of that right angle triangle, right, which is D, over the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is just 10, right? And then you can cross multiply to get the value of D. So D is just 10 times sine 50 degrees, which is around 7.66 kilometer. So it's 7.66 kilometer. Well, 2 decimal place, round off to 2 decimal place, right? Okay, and then next one. The next one is actually a different question, although I write it as part A and part B. So it's a totally different question, right? So for part B, the angle of elevation of the top of a building from a point 50 meters away on a level ground is 25 degrees. Calculate the height of the building to the nearest meter, right? So you have the angle of elevation and also that is the angle of the elevation, and also the distance, right? So first of all, let me draw it, like how you solve for angle of elevation. So you're gonna draw the horizontal line, right? Horizontal line is basically your ground, right? And then assuming that you have your point of view, right? Your eye is basically at here, right? At the ground. If you have angle of elevation, you actually looking up, right? Because it's called elevation. You want to elevate, right? So you're looking out from the ground. So for 25 degrees, so it's maybe somewhere around here for 25 degrees, then you have the angle of elevation. If you want the angle of depression, you're gonna have to look down from the ground. So sidetrack a little bit. If you want to look down, this will be your angle of depression, right? Angle of depression if you're looking down. But anyway, in this case, we are looking for the angle of elevation, so we're going to use the one that's moving up, right? So that angle is 25 degrees, and then you're going to see the top of the building. So let's say you have the top of the building. This is the top of the building, right? Let's say this is your building, and then 80 meters away on a level ground. So this is 80 meters, right? The starting point to the building is 80 meters away, right? And the angle of elevation is 25 degrees. And then they're asking what is the height of the building. So let's say this is the height of the building, right? And then since the building is just assumed to be perpendicular to the ground, right? It's at the level, to the level ground is just perpendicular. Again, you can use the trigonometry in this case. Let's see. We know the angle. We want to find out the opposite side, but we are given the adjacent side. So you're gonna use opposite and adjacent, right? So again, if you use the formula, you know that we're gonna have to use tan, right? So it's TOA. So if you want to find the tangent of an angle, is just the opposite over the adjacent, right? Adjacent. Okay, so let me write down the equation. So tangent 25 degrees equals to the opposite height, the one that we want to find out, over the adjacent side, which is 80. And then quickly we can find the value of h by cross multiplying 80 and tangent 25, and then we will get a value of around 37 meters, round off to the nearest meter. Okay, so that's about it for this question. Cheers.